Today we're going to paint English roses. Hi friends, I'm Olga Koelsch, watercolor artist, teacher and a book author. Welcome to my studio. English roses are known for their beautiful middle and use of pink. So let's first prepare our mix. Pick up your favorite pinks. I have alizarin crimson. I make it pretty diluted, but I also would like to use some red. I have coral red. If you have something like viridium, cadmium red. I will start with the middle and I will arrange my brush strokes a little bit in this spiral way, trying to get to the middle point. But it's not about details yet, just to set up the direction. And then I would like to make it even lighter. Here we prepared place for the middle part. And now we are painting brush strokes around. It's more like C strokes, slightly overlapping with each other. Sometimes they also touch the middle. And try to leave a little bit of white paper in between. And the more you move outside from the flower center, the more pressure you add to your brush. I paint with the body of the brush and then I lift my brush. Tip of the brush, body of the brush, and then I lift my brush. I can add different shapes, not necessarily just C strokes. That can be a variety of moves. About this. I will switch to my smaller brush and I would like to paint the middle. For the middle I will use just the same pink but in much stronger paint. I will also add a little bit of viridian to make it darker and deeper, and I will start with outside brush strokes. Add the shadow into the middle part. Just brush strokes, not a circle. Add some movement to your brush strokes like this. And then let's move to the rose center. Basically S strokes, coming all into the middle, but try to make some variety. Some of brush strokes can be closer, or you can leave bigger gap around. Some variety. And the quicker you move your brush, the more interesting details you will get. Now with the same brush, I just lighten it up slightly, the mix. I will add some shadows into the light part a bit. You can wash your brush, remove water on the paper towel, and with leftovers on your brush, add more shadows. Always nice to emphasize the middle. And then I go again in the middle and add more of darkness on the top of the petals, just like this. It's very nice if you just, instead of washing your brush thoroughly, you just quickly drop your brush in the jar, take it out, and then you remove water. You see, you can see with the color of the paper towel that here is still some leftovers of paints inside the brush. Now we're removing water and we have very diluted hue in the brush, which we can nicely use for the shadows. A bit more of green into the mix. and into the middle. The middle, this point in the very middle of the rose should be the darkest one. And play around with the brush. First one is ready. Now let's make the second one consisting of two different colors. I would say more reddish orange in the middle. So I use my coral red. Let's paint the middle. At the very beginning it should be relatively transparent. Some brush strokes to start the movement. So now we are painting with two hues. Now I'm painting outside petals. In the same principle, tip of the brush, belly of the brush, some wiggle moves, and then release the pressure. And sometimes you can just paint a thin brush stroke, and then second one can be a bit thicker. Try to add some variety. And again, I just put my brush briefly into water, remove water, the big drop from the glass jar, a little bit on the paper towel, and I have much lighter pink in my brush. And when I move my brush, I can twist it around. That also create nice brush strokes, and so on and so on. Add a couple of brush strokes inside and in the wet area. Now I switch to my smaller brush, and I will load it now with my coral red. For example, this time the middle can be slightly shifted a little bit down, and then you repeat the same trick. You arrange those spiral brush strokes, but in some variety, always some variety. You see, brush strokes was wet and wet, they are not so sharp. You can wash your brush, dry it with a paper towel, and go again around with clean, damp brush. It's always important to add those, so to say, circle, but in principle this is the shadow between open part and this spiral one. Strokes around with the tip of the brush, a bit darker one in the middle, couple of brush strokes in the middle from the previous one. I try to have a look that my shadows, they wouldn't be too brighter than the petals. I don't want that big contrast right now. And I always try to move my brush a bit different. Tip of the brush, belly of the brush. And let's add the third one. Again, this double colored rose, but now I want the middle be bigger, more open one. The accent will be more onto the middle part, so I painted bigger. I will add a bit of green into this light mix to mute the brightness of the brush strokes. The upper petals, they are looking onto sunshine. They can be lighter, can be more paper left, and in the bottom leaves they can definitely be a bit darker, a bit of green already. I can already add a couple of green brush strokes. Super dusty. At the first stage it looks like a blob, and this is absolutely fine. More synthetic brush, coral mix, and paint the middle. So I will place my initial spot, the middle, somewhere up, and then I can arrange the petals accordingly. This time I'm not doing the spiral thing. I try to divide it into different groups because it's nice, because it's more interesting. Flowers, it's not stamps, they're all different, so try to emphasize their variety when you paint. I have clean damp brush. I'm just going around and softening some strokes like this, and I have my a bit darker and muted red and all these very important shadows, dividing the middle part from the outside part. It's an important one, but try not to paint just a circle. Make sometimes right now I have dry brush, it makes dry brush strokes. I switch to the shadow part and have this muted pink. I will do shadows. I see that I can go a bit more brave in the middle. It already has this nice green accent. I like it. I want to dilute slightly. Something like this. Let's add a bit more of purple mix into the coral part, just to connect them, bring more shadows. Now let's add greenery. As my basic paint, I will use phthalo green. That looks super bright. Therefore, I will mix it with my pink I used to mute it. That was a bit too much, so I mix it again until I get nice hue of green. Now let's add some greenery around. Typical for roses, a bit of zigzag edge, so I just attach one brush stroke to another brush stroke to create that very soft, and then I hide my leaf under my beautiful roses. Can be again one more, so I apply one brush strokes next to another one, and with the tip of the brush right now I can create very nice beautiful edge of the rose. I can correct some shape, just make it like this. See how they immediately begin to pop up? I would like to add sap green. I want some variety with green mixes, so let's now paint another leaf. Don't overthink it, and actually the quicker you try to move your brush, the more interesting that can be. Sometimes it's helpful if you firstly set up the vein and then you sit up your leaf onto that vein. And I soften some parts of the leaf and around the leaf to create more watery surrounding here. Also different shadows of leaves. And now let's do something similar right here. Not convenient for me to make. I will try anyway to create the leaf. Just brush strokes attached one to another, then another one, and then I can correct the shape of the petal of the the flower. It looks like one more leaf would be nice, just to be placed right here. I can just do it in simple way, some round shape, creamy green mix. We are not forgetting about this flower. Let's add a bit of another leaf. Remember, leaves, of course, they can overlap with each other. But basically, I'm not painting leaves, I'm painting some shapes, slightly reminding the leaves. And then I wash my brush. And as usual, I leave a little bit on my brush. So now I have the same hue, but much lighter. I can add a bit more of leaves of greenery around. Right now I'm thinking less and less about painting leaves, just painting green spots, green something in nice places where I think that will improve, where it can add to the painting. I can also add a couple of pink spots around to balance things. What I really like to do is to paint around my roses, because that will help to make them pop up. So whether it's possible, I try to create the nice outline. I will add a bit more of pink into my greenish mix, remove water with a paper towel, and then I add a couple of veins in some leaves with the tip of the brush, some details. And suddenly those big shapes, they look very defined and intricate. Can vary color for the veins, a bit light on the top, a bit dark on the bottom. This is very light. I want to add some shadow on the neighboring rows, just like this, brave, and then turn it into the petals. Our English roses are ready. Thank you so much for painting with me. I hope you enjoyed the process. I am looking forward to know what would you like to paint next. And see you soon. Bye bye.